Hello and welcome to Doula Doula Sarah's podcast. I am joined by my colleague and friend Shevone of Birth by Intuition Limited, and we are discussing the Netflix documentary You Are What You Eat, a Twin Experiment. Before we dive in, we want to remind you that the views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect the official policies or positions of any individuals or organisations mentioned. The information provided in this podcast is for general informational purposes only. It should not be considered as professional advice. We encourage you to consult with relevant professionals or experts regarding your specific situation or needs. While we strive to provide accurate and up-to-date information, we make no representations or warranties of any kind, express or implied, about the completeness, accuracy and reliability, suitability or availability with respect to the content contained in this podcast or the linked resources. Any reliance you place on such information is therefore strictly at your own risk. We aim to maintain a respectful and inclusive dialogue. Comments or opinions shared by the listeners or guests are their own and are not endorsed by Doula Doula Sarah or Birth by Intuition Shevone. All content provided in this podcast is protected by copyright and intellectual property laws. You may not reproduce, distribute or transmit any part of this podcast without our prior written permission. Thank you for listening and joining us on Doula Doula Sarah's podcast with special guest and friend accompanying me on this journey into twin studies, Shevone at Birth by Intuition. Thank you. Hello, welcome to Doula Doula Presents in collaboration with Birth by Intuition. Shevone, do you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Shevone. I'm from Birth by Intuition and I'm in collaboration with Doula Doula Sarah, and we're going to be talking about You Are What You Eat, a twin experiment.
Anybody else want to introduce themselves?
Hi, I'm Trudy. I'm also a twin mum. I'm a new twin mum. My kids are only 4 months old, but I've got a 2-year-old as well. And I thought it'd be quite good to join today.
So I'm Alicia. I'm also a twin mum. My twin boys are 8 months old, but my second twin, Leighton, was stillborn at birth. So we have a twinless twin that we are raising. And I've also got a older child who's 3 and another old one who's 11. It was important because for my situation, with the fact that my son passed away at birth, there's not much research or understanding into why he passed away at birth. However, twins are used in various studies to study things, but yet there's nothing into the causes of situations like mine.
Hi, I'm Krishna. I'm also a twin mom, new twin mom. I have a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and now 2 identical twin boys who are almost 3 months. Yeah, I was just interested in general about food and health, and I didn't know about this until you mentioned it. So really interesting to see I'm completely new to the twin world. So really interested to see how they do research about it.
Any of the men in the room want to introduce themselves? Mark?
I'm in the right room. That's the first question. Right, I'm a twin dad. I'm a parent and I'm everyone's partner. And my interest really is I'm practicing vegan for many of years. I've seen the documentary and there's a lot of issues that I would like to discuss. Really.
We're here for it all.
Our twins are one this month.
Wonderful, brilliant. For the benefit of those of you that are here that haven't watched the documentary, Shevone and Alicia, who know each other, tell us a little bit about what the basic premise is of it, and we'll just pick it apart bit by bit.
Okay. You Are What You Eat, a twin experiment. So typically around this time of year, the media likes to talk about diet because supposedly we all go on a healthy eating regime, and yeah, they've now opted January to be Veganuary. We are supporting people to trial out veganism, and it just so coincidentally happens that the documentary is based on an omnivore diet and a vegan diet. So they want to see the differences between the two, and they have coincidentally experimented this upon identical twins only. There's 4 sets of twins in the documentary, 2 sets of identical girls, 2 sets of identical boys, and It's all based in America, although they might not be natively American. And it's grown adults, let's say. And the premise behind it is yet to be explored.
Yeah.
It's very interesting though, because also the twins that they use are very similar in the fact that some of them live together and work together and do the same type of job. It seems like they're twins that don't have, in some ways, their own identity. They've stayed very much in that, like, when you see identical twins when up until the age of like 16, when they're in school, generally they will be in school together and they may have similar hobbies, but at the same time twins can do their own different things. But yeah, it just seems a very, very similar kind of twins. They've stayed in that bubble of being identical twins that do the same things, that live together, that work together.
Does everybody here know what twin studies are? If not, I can give you a brief kind of overview of it, so it might be helpful. And it's often confused for research into twins. So sometimes, particularly in pregnancy, as people here may have experienced, finding information about twins is quite difficult. And there is an awful lot of I don't knows. And research is big money now. And so we're also burying really good quality research with poor quality research. Now, twin studies was thought up by a guy called Francis Galton. I don't know if people know who Francis Galton is, but he was the guy who came up with eugenics. And we all know what that gave the world and the many atrocities that was committed in the pursuit of what he considered to be the perfect human. And he also came up with twin studies. He believed that twins are so alike that you could study them, the nature versus nurture element. He was a cousin of Darwin. He inspired the Nazis and the terrible genocides that he actually promoted. He inspired Hitler and Joseph Mengele in the Second World War, who carried out really barbaric experiments on twins, including cutting two twins in half and putting them together to see if he could make conjoined twins from a set of twins. They did an awful lot of experiments on children, and children are still now experimented on in the twin community. And fraternal twins are not safe from this because they are seen as a different model to compare against. After the Second World War, one of the most famous survivors of Auschwitz is a woman called Ava Moses Kaur. When her twins survived, they would inject eyes to see if they could change the color. They would inject them with viruses and pathogens and expose them to radiation. Really harmful stuff, and many twins died at the hands of Joseph Mengele. And interestingly, there are countries in the world where there's a very low population of twins, but those countries have towns that almost everybody is a twin. And they believe it's because when Joseph Mengele escaped from Germany, he went via those countries. So they think that may have something to do with it. After the Second World War, the Nuremberg trials, which is where they tried the Nazis, they invited the victims of the Second World War to give evidence. And from that, the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights was drawn up, and something called the Helsinki Act. The Helsinki Act is to protect people who enter into clinical trials. Is, to me, alarming that twins were not afforded protections that other groups were afforded. And as such, in the 70s and 80s, there was a guy in America called Peter Neubauer, and he took twins and triplets. There's a really great documentary on Netflix, actually. Maybe we'll watch that and we'll do this then, where they took triplets and twins from their mother, from their family. They adopted them out to separate homes, and every year they would get a visit by Peter Neubauer. Again, I don't like to call, I'm not going to use his doctor title, he's not worthy of it, but he would go and visit them every year, completely separated. And by chance encounters, the triplets met, and it all came out. Now, this is not ancient history, this is recent. There was also a guy called John Money. Again, I'm not going to use his doctor title. He was fascinated with gender studies. And there was a set of identical twin boys, and they developed an issue with the foreskin on the penis, and they needed to get the skin released. And there was an accident. And if anybody who can't see me, I'm doing bunny ears. It was convenient because it meant that John Money could swoop in and advise the parents on how to raise the boys. One would be raised as a girl and one would be raised as a boy. And when they got into adulthood, the twin that was raised as a girl, started to live as a man, and he got married. So if we take 3 identical strangers, right, and when you take the twins, the John Money twins, 3 of those died by suicide. One of the triplets and both of the boys. So there is evidence that the siblings suffer. This documentary is bringing forth the idea, very archaic ideas about twin studies.
The documentary is based on the omnivore diet and the vegan diet. So just to say, we are vegans and have been following the vegan diet for 9 years coming up now. It's interesting that they've now brought the vegan diet to the forefront as a option because it's getting popularized. I would say that it's become fashionable to become vegan, but now they're trying to give it sustenance. We're vegan by choice, and we might not follow the conventional vegan diet that everyone might think of, based on salads and whole foods and all of those great things. It's interesting, to say the least. From the twin perspective, I personally wonder why they have, well, I don't wonder. They said why they chose twins, and they reckon that it's because they're the same, similar people. They claim that twins are identical twins are the same, which is not true. As we all know, everyone is an individual and everyone should be treated uniquely. It doesn't matter if you look the same as the other person or if you don't. And they reckon because identical twins are the perfect testing group. And it's heartbreaking, actually, I would say, that they are picked upon and being forced to identify as similar individuals. Because as you will hear throughout the documentary, we've got one set of twins that claim that if they want to be alone, or if one of the twins wants to be alone, he will grab the other twin. And then you've got the other set of twins that work together, and then you've got the other set of twins that are studying together. So it's really pushing the idea that twins are the same. And I think we need to, as parents of twins, recognize that twins are not the same. They are not. I'm talking from the fraternal side of things. So they have that obvious difference that one's a boy, one's a girl.
Well, it's funny because it's like I always say with like our twins, they were the same sex, but Leighton had dark hair and Lawson had blonde hair. So growing up, because when we were on, it was really interesting because we were on holiday in this time, like no, December last year. And on the last day when we were about to leave, we were having breakfast and really early, there was a family there and they had twin boys and they said to us, they're like, oh, they're supposed to be non-identical. And because we asked them, oh, are they identical? Because they looked so similar that we were like, we automatically thought, because we were like, oh, we're having twins, but we don't know what we're having. And it is interesting, like you say, is that fact of that just because they're identical twins doesn't mean they're still the same people, you know what I mean? And then I remember when my boss had his twins, they were a boy and a girl, and I remember him saying, I need to stop calling them the twins. They are two individual people. And he made the point of saying that I need to stop doing that because they are two individual people. And I know other friends of ours, their twins are, what are they now? They're nearly like 16, they're doing GCSEs. I didn't actually realise that they were twins until my friend told me the other day. Boy and a girl, they've always sent them to different schools. So they've always gone to different schools because the girl twin was quite shy compared to her brother, and she'd always let her brother lead. And they said by doing that, it meant that both of them could be themselves and their own character by separating them with schools.
My twins are 9, and I chose to home educate them because I home educated my eldest, but I decided to home educate them because they are so different, and the expectation on them to be the same is very bizarre, very difficult to navigate for them. And we also, it's almost like when you're a twin mum, everybody owns the right to your story, the right to details about your pregnancy that they would never ask a singleton parent, such as, did you conceive naturally?
Exactly. I was about to say that. Yeah.
You
I've
know?
heard that so many times. Oh wow, you've had twins. Was that natural? Natural? And you're just like, but it's also exactly what Alicia was saying in terms of people just grouping twins and making them not individual, and your boss going, actually, they are individual, was quite good, because I found in the few months that I've been a twin mum, for example, if both of my twins are going through something, so for example, they've both got acid reflux at the moment, so they're bringing up their feeds or whatever, and the doctor would only ever prescribe it on one twin. But then what happens in the future with her? Yeah, so he'll prescribe double on one twin. So I go to the chemist and I'm only asking for one prescription on one kid, but then doesn't that warp their medical records, because it doesn't show that one twin's got it and the other's not, because you're just prescribing it to one person. Yeah. And they've been doing things like that more than once, and that's just been in the few months that I've had, and I've not said anything about it. Obviously now listening to you, it piqued it a bit. Before I've just gone, oh, okay, yeah, cool, whatever. But now thinking about it, actually, that doesn't give them their own identity. It doesn't make them go back to their medical records and be like, oh, I had this and that makes sense now. It's just mishmashed on any of them, and they're not the same person. They're two different people. And yes, they are identical twins and whatever, but again, as Alicia said, at birth, one came out really dark, one came out quite light. Firstly, they kind of, and it was like, these are not identical. So yeah, it's weird. It's weird, but just thinking about what you just said, it just piqued that, going, actually, they are clumping them.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's all, they are reframing eugenics, replacing it with the word epigenetics. It's a slippery slope. It's not a very sophisticated science. And I'm desperately trying to find a quote, because it's so interesting that there is a guy on there his name's Tim Spector, I think. And I found it stark how alike his comments were to Galton's. And Galton came up with the twin model in the 1860s. And the worrying thing is that when I've raised this with people, they'll say, it's not a conspiracy. I'm like, no, I know it's not a conspiracy. The evidence is there. The history doesn't write itself. People just don't want to. And twins are the hangover of eugenics movement, because it is all in the pursuit of the perfect, what they consider to be the perfect human. And in the UK, there's a register. Tim Spector actually is from England, and he has the twins registry in the UK. And they have sets of twins who are involved in studies, none of which directly benefit twins, what it is to be a twin. And there's so many complexities around twinning, from pregnancy to growing up and how they interact with each other. My twins are 9, so I've had a lot of time to think about this. But I feel like my twins were potentially born with a price on their head. Tim Spector says the same mannerisms, laugh the same, hold cups the same, perfect natural experiment, identical genes, and he said nature versus nurture. Francis Galton said something along the lines of twins that are so alike, they walk the same. I need to find the quote and then come back to it, but he was the first person to come up with the term nature versus nurture, which has been disproven over and over again. He spoke about twins being so alike that their parents can't tell them apart. Can I just get the mums here, the parents here that have got identical twins, even tiny identical twins? Do you struggle telling your twins apart?
No.
Oh, go ahead. No. I have to admit, at the beginning I did, but very quickly, it became clear who's who. And they're not even 3 months, and not even physically. I get confused because they're supposed to be identical. I was told they're identical, and I'm like, they're not identical.
Yeah.
To me, but to other people they are. But they just are different babies.
Mm-hmm.
One sleeps more and one eats more. One has a louder cry, one has a weaker cry. One has even their personalities already at 2.5 months are different.
Mm-hmm.
And full stop. One drinks more and puts on more weight and is heavier and has chubbier cheeks. And so it's not just the physical appearance, but already their personalities are different at 2.5 months.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
my twins
I just wanted to add, especially because it's the Christmas time, what you mentioned before, it made me click. I went to a Christmas party with them, and the first comment I got was, "Oh, you don't dress them the same." They were, and I was like, "No, I don't." Sometimes it's fun because you receive gifts for the babies, and you receive 2 of the same. But I don't dress them the same because I think each one is their own. But there's this pressure from society that because they're twins, you dress them the same. And that was the first question at a Christmas party when they met the twins.
Yeah. And it feels really icky, doesn't it? When people I don't like when people say, oh, twins are fascinating, because that makes me think of sideshows. So how are they fascinating exactly? And what fascinates you about them? And they're assuming that they're going to have the same response to the foods. I have a twin who has anaphylaxis. The other one has asthma. As babies mature, is that the viruses that we get trigger autoimmune responses in us. And it would be a virus that one of the twins got that caused the trigger in her to go off, that caused this anaphylaxis. And with her sister, I believe it was probably more to do with birth. There are many differences. Shevone, I'll bring it to you. What do you think this episode is trying to achieve?
There you go. It's really weird. Truly touching back on what you said about the doctors, I've been getting a prescription for my 2 children, and I ordered through through one of them, and then I had to remind the receptionist that I needed to order another set for my other child. And then when I gave her the same date of birth, she's like, "Oh, are they twins?" They're 2 different people. I don't know. I gave you 2 different names, so they just happen to have the same date of birth. Krishna, as much as mine are boy and girl, they still expect, like, when they see them in the same colors or something like that, they're like, "Oh." And now that they're getting older, people are just like, "Oh, they're looking more and more alike now."
Mm.
I don't know what you want me to say.
Yeah, and it's cute. It's cute to dress them the same, but it's the expectation.
Yeah.
Do it for special. I'm sure it's cute, and I do it sometimes, but it's the assumption that you always have to do it. I found that a bit strange.
But when they get older, you'll see at parties, and if the pass the parcel stops on one of the twins' lap, and the other twins next to them, the child will take the parcel from the twin who has opened it, and not the twin that is sat next to them, because they're considered the same person. And when we were locked down in COVID, for some reason, I've made a really bad decision and decided to engage in education online with them. And the teacher would literally, if they had 2 devices, and if Kitty put her hand up, the teacher said, "The twins have got a question." They both had a question, right? So she would take the question from one of the twins. She wouldn't come back. And I had to keep saying to her, Willow's got her hands up. And it's bizarre. It's so bizarre. Be surprised to learn that the people that are at the head of an awful lot of the charities and organizations around the world that have been created for the benefit of twins are associated with organizations that have been formed for the purposes of twin studies.
Can I just interject?
Go.
Listening to this conversation, the only reason why we are here is because we are parents of twins. But we have to understand that there's a wider world, and that wider world, a lot of people they can only take what is fed to them. And I'm talking about, this has been, if I wasn't a parent of a twin, I would have the same expectation. Because this is not just that study. There's been a lot more studies that, and the tradition, the expectation that twins are the same people. Because, as you rightly said, there's not a lot of factual evidence that is around this on twinning. It's about trying to put the information out there to educate people. It's about a lack of understanding on their part of everyone's. I personally want to try to knock these people who ask these questions. I try to understand their point of view, and the fact that I used to be one of those people because of lack of understanding of the world and understanding of how twins are twinning. Because it's for a single, you're not going to, as you said, you're not going to ask a person who's got a single birth these questions. But I figure more, in my opinion, and what I see in my experience, is more lack of understanding and knowledge.
Yeah.
I think they are trying to bring across the idea in the documentary. There shouldn't be an understanding of difference between the twins. And there shouldn't be, but there also should be, because we're going to use different diets on each of them. But then we're expecting similar results from it.
Yeah, I think they're hoping to try and prove that a vegan diet is more healthy. It's a really difficult thing, because in some ways, what I looked at it from a point of view is, if you've got people that are normally non-meat eaters, like meat eaters, and then are completely switching their diet to be vegan, it's okay. But how their body have got to go through those changes, where that other person, their body isn't going through those changes. So that is going to impact the results in this study of how their body is affected by it. Like you say, it's this thing of, like, when it comes back to the whole vegan diet, it's this diet's the flavour of the month. Like you say, it is a very flawed science, and trying to use twins to prove or disprove that a vegan diet is better or has added benefits to people than a meat diet is in some ways false as well. Because I think also, when it comes to vegan diets, I had a colleague that was vegan, and she was like, yeah, but I did start cooking all whole foods and did it properly, which these people are doing it completely properly, as in all the whole foods. But there's a lot of vegan, as she says, vegan crap out there, and vegan fast food. And so actually, the whole idea of what their purpose of is America, with the American diet, and they're all getting heart disease and diabetes and all these things, and trying to change that. Having a vegan diet not necessarily is going to actually solve those problems, because all of a sudden you can go to McDonald's and get a vegan McDonald's. You know what I mean? Like, it's not going to solve the problem. You know what I mean? It's just coming back to this, again, flawed science, where it's actually, instead of really educating people on, like, a healthy, balanced diet from cooking from scratch. My family, we eat whole foods from scratch, but have meat in our diet, which is very similar to somewhat, but at the same time, you've got other families that eat meat in their diet, and it's all processed. It's all chicken nuggets, chips. No, chips aren't vegan, but it's that kind of processed meats and processed sauces and everything else like that. So I just think it's a really different, I sit there and just, like, cringe at it, because you're trying to say that by testing it on twins, it's bulletproof in the research that you'll gain from it, but it actually really isn't. And actually, there's a bigger element to it. So that was my take on it.
I studied cultural studies back in the day, when cultural studies was a topic that was readily taught, because it's a dangerous subject, especially if you are a dangerous critical thinker anyway. And so an awful lot of research, when I look at research, is I'm looking at why was the research done? Who participated? Who funded it? Who stands to gain from it? A lot of the arguments for twin studies being legitimately ethical is that the twins are paid. And in the UK, that's very low, which is that why they did it in America? Because Tim Spector's English. We have parents who are putting their children forward for these twin studies. And they'll say they'll be compensated, they'll be paid. So they give consent. Now, if someone is not well resourced and they can make money, is that them using their agency? Are they truly using their autonomous, individual, uninfluenced mind to make that decision? And can they do that for their children? Why don't we go through the episode from memory and talk about each bit of it and the people that participated and try and picking it apart a bit?
We were having that discussion earlier, but the first one, for me, it was more around the fact that they were finding and using twins that had very similar lifestyles. They, from a environmental side of things, you've not got one twin living in one part of the country and the other twin living in another part of the country, because that would have an impact, is the environment that someone lives in. Because I know this is a bit digressing, but it's like when they say about couples, if they have lived together for 20 odd years, they're very likely to eat the same diets, and they end up start to look like each other as they get older into old age. I know you've heard of this, but basically, and because they're in the same environments. Whereas if you've got twins that are in two different workplaces, two different environments, two, say, stress environments, one has kids, one doesn't have children, that is going to play an impact on how food reacts with their body. Whereas these twins you've got the two that are students that study and live together. Then you've got the two that work together, haven't you?
Yep.
That are chefs.
Yep.
And then you've got the other two that live together that are the older ladies that are always out walking. That's what I remember from that one. And then you've got the other ones, that the other two guys, that they don't really go into what they do for a job or anything else, but they don't seem to live together, do they?
The older two are the cheese twins, famous.
That's it, the cheese ones.
Yeah.
The cheese ones. Yeah.
And they've got families of their own, but I think they live in a similar area because it's filmed around one of their houses, but they work together, essentially. It is very much similar people because twins are the same.
So if we look at each of the participants,
okay,
what would be their motivation? So starting with the cheese twins, what would you assume their motivation might be?
It will impact their business because they sell cheese, and cheese isn't vegan. And as everyone says, I do vegan, but I couldn't give up the cheese because apparently vegan cheese doesn't taste very good. Apparently, never tried it.
Yeah, I think TV exposure for the famous twins,
because they've been on other shows as well, haven't they?
Yeah, they've gone on other cooking culinary shows, so they've got a good thing going on. For the Filipino twins, they claim that they want to include more Filipinos in the pursuit of twin studies, better representation. But yeah, we'll see how that pans out for them. But I think one was a school teacher, so we are assuming that they get paid for this, by the way, because in America, trial studies, they call it that. I don't even know. It's normally remunerated. Yeah. But yeah, I think one is a high school teacher, one is a coach. The South African twins are caterers, and the young black boys are nurses. Yes. Student nurses. Yeah.
The young guys are students, and to get a college education in America is you're left with thousands of pounds worth of debt. So have they used their agency, or do you think that they feel that it's an opportunity to get paid to participate in something just because they need the money, maybe?
Maybe. I think it's us talking about their personal circumstances, but I think all of them will benefit from exposure, and none of them seem to be going with the idea that twins are different. And I find that really odd that they are playing into the fact twins are the same. So based on exposure alone, great. But based on the fact that that kind of negates the whole exposure thing. But yeah, like we said, the older guys are the ones that stand to gain the most from it because they are TV personalities, maybe in the making. But yeah, we don't know what will exactly come from it, but it is watched by most. And yeah, like I said in the beginning, it's January.
Veganuary, no?
Yeah, I hate the word. I hate it. But yeah. So they go on to talk about, obviously it's based in America, so we're gonna talk about the American sphere of things. And thank God we live in England, because a lot of the stuff that they are allowed to consume is just disgusting. I feel like they are touching on the environmental aspect of it as well. So they are, you're right, I'm gonna get muddled up now, aren't I? Watch most episodes.
It came back to a lot about how certain towns that literally would be like 8 miles apart, you have one town where they're really healthy and there isn't very many issues, and you've got another town where actually they're really unhealthy. They've got like heart disease, type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, and you've got all these things that are big killers in the world, and they live 10 years less than the other people. And yeah, and it also comes back, they also talk about like global warming and how that actually now, because of global warming and like the amount of production of beef in America is like massive, and how these cattle, like the weight of these cattle, what was it they compared it to? I can't remember what it was now.
The rest of the
Yes.
Mammals, the world,
Yeah, so there's a lot
more
about
cows on this earth than there are any other species.
Yeah. So there was this like, and how the farming of this factory farming is, oh, if it's got this much room, it can be considered as free range, and it isn't. And like when you see these cattle farms and they like do like a zoom up from them, and they are like, you just look at this like vast area that they're keeping these animals in, and that is
thousands of animals,
and it's like, and you just go, that's like as big as a town in England, because in America the land space is so much bigger. And then, so there's a lot spoken around about the global warming pressures and climate change, and how if people ate a vegan diet, then that would help with climate change, which I can see that, but at the same time, you're never going to get everyone to switch over there. So is it about ensuring that we have sustainability? But the problem is, at the same time, is if you reduce you reduce the amount of animals you can farm, then it pushes up those prices. So it comes back to economics again on the demand and supply side. You know what I mean? Everyone wants a hamburger from McDonald's for 99p. They don't want to be paying £3 for something when actually really that's what we should be paying because of the cost that's involved in it if you did this sustainably. So yeah, there's a lot of elements sort of brought up in that first episode on how it's better to have a vegan diet, and how basically the environment and everything else like that. So yeah, it's quite interesting on those side of things.
Yeah, I think going back to San Bernardino, where they had the first McDonald's, and Loma Linda, where they've got the highest concentration of 7-day Adventists. Yeah, go for it, Mark.
So you see, what this study failed to show you is that the people who live in Loma Linda, most of these are retired professionals with a very high GDP. So they can afford to live a certain way, compared to a mom who's struggling to feed the children. And What they also fail to say is that the vegan diet is not really cheap. For you to be a proper vegan. And most of these people that they show in Loma Linda, they are retired pastors, they're retired doctors. These are retired professionals. But if you should say the same organization, the same set of people, and from the same organization, not just apart, because Loma Linda is owned by the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Right? And if you should take, and these are Loma Linda, then the Seventh-day Adventist Conference, the General Conference. This is the highest order of the highest Vatican City, and then the City of Rome. That's just the same setup. So Loma Linda would be the City of Rome, and then you have the Vatican City, which the Vatican City, and then you have where the Pope lives. And this is the same setup in the Seventh-day Adventist Church, where you have Loma Linda, where all the retired preachers who used to serve the church.
Yeah.
These people are affluent people. They can afford to spend a bit more money because their health is taken care of by the church.
Okay.
You understand? So that's what they fail to tell you that. And that's the reason why when you have 99p and you got 3 kids to feed, I'm sure you're not gonna spend that on some bulk of wheat for 2 quid. So it's boiled down to economics in this place.
Yeah, I think they were trying to hone in on the proximity and the food desert.
You were saying, Shevone, yesterday about that. What?
Yeah, Sunburn. Something like that.
Yeah.
I shouldn't. Yeah, I shouldn't. But this area is they eat highly processed foods. I don't think they have great access to fresh fruits and vegetables. Whereas Loma Linda, they've got access to all the fruits and vegetables that you want. And it's surprising that in 2024, America, one of the biggest GDP in the world, they have food deserts. Why are there people unable to access fresh fruits and vegetables, whether or not they want to be vegan or not? Why is it that you can go to the shop and all you get is processed foods? Like it's crazy to think that in this day and age that it's this way.
I think as well, the thing that the demographic of the participants, white women only make up for 20% of twins in the world. So sometimes I wonder whether or not this is something that is not a white enough issue, and that's why it's still going on.
Yeah, they had to. I would say that the production has been very diverse. I don't think there's very few white women involved in the whole production. I mean, the fitness maybe, but they had to draw on the mayor of New York, who coincidentally turned to a plant-based diet. He was pre-diabetic. He lost his sight. He was having stomach pains. And when he went into office, I think he said that he was on a mission to help New Yorkers and get them healthy, so to speak. Yeah.
In that way, you see, one of the things that I is documented is that you spend so many years trying to say, listen, this is where you should eat, this is the way you should eat, this is the way you should eat, and you drum it into the mind of people. Okay, you should eat this, you should eat this, and then when you say we can make some money this way, let's just go. This is where you should go. This is where you should go. Because of the scarcity of food, the economics, when there's a scarcity, the prices goes up. They realize that it's more expensive to produce farm products. So they are now trying to market that product in such a way that now to make it more marketable. Because this is not about the people who eat vegetable, because this is about marketing, starting to support the farmer in their quest. And this is because they are now trying to create a situation where now, so from switch it a bit from the meat farmers to the farmers who have this orchard, or the farmer who is growing apples, or the farmer is growing And then because the price of these things, once there's a shortage, as you and I know, the prices will go up. So they're now trying to. It's just for me, it's just who's got the strongest lobby around this time. So these and the more veganism become more fashionable, because the first time I became a vegan when I was 16 by choice, and then I started eating meat in my 20s, and then went back to become a vegan. But my point is, so I'm on two sides. I experienced two sides of the divide.
Yep.
So I experienced two sides of the divide. I know, and it's not. I'm not like the guy who's going to hug up a tree and give the kiss and say, "I ain't doing that." I'm not that type of vegan. Huh? You understand me? It's for me. It's more a matter of my personality. And let me explain to you. When I switched from meat back to meat, I for weeks I had severe headaches because my body takes a time to readjust.
Oh, wow.
So yeah. So while we are thinking that, so it's not just that 4 weeks, that 8 weeks trial that they're doing. They're gonna have a lot of sick people.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sick people with that 8 week trials, especially, and I can tell you now, if we switch the camera off, you're gonna find a lot of people running back to pick a piece of chicken or a piece of when the camera goes off, because it's not a vegan diet is not for the faint-hearted. Because you cannot change our attitude of a lifetime in 8 weeks.
I couldn't go vegan.
So I the guy's going to tell anyone in this forum to go and stop eating meat. It's affecting your health. That's a different thing. If you try something different, I'm not going to say, you know what? You're not looking too well today, no. So you need to go and try some now, because I know it's your choice, because you will struggle. It's going to be a day-to-day struggle if you don't make the right choice in your life.
Definitely. I think that also when you're talking about what their intention is, what their motivation is to try and get people to eat healthy, I don't know whether or not I'm fully sold on that idea, because there's not an awful lot of money in healthy eating. And
there is now. Yeah. Oh yeah, there is.
Oh, there is now. Okay.
Yeah. And I think they mention it in the documentary of how profitable it is now. Yeah. That's why they're trying to create the switch. Yeah. Because remember, they're mass producing. The price is key. The price is not staying low. With the farm product is a different thing. So they have now created that issue. That's the reason why you have so much crap, on the market. Vegan this, vegan that, vegan this, vegan that, and they sell it's a billions of dollar industry now. Yeah. And it's mad, because as a vegan, we're now endangered. In danger. You understand? If you're not very careful of, because the stuff that they're peddling to you as a vegan, you don't know what they're giving you. Might as well. Sometimes I feel I should just have a piece of chicken. At least I know that it's a chicken. Yeah, you understand? I think they say in America it's not mandatory for them to disclose the origin of the product either, and I think it's a bit of the graciousness of being in England versus not. So yeah, well, it's interesting. Yeah, I still don't understand why they're trying. I just don't understand why the twin study, really. I'm still trying to get my head around it.
It's money making. If you go on Google Scholar and you put in, for example, monochorionic twin pregnancy, you might see maybe in a year 6,500 articles, right? But those also include citations. That's not how many there are, because it's repeated. If you put in twin studies, it is astronomically higher. And he called Tim Spector, who I actually invited, he didn't come, he calls them the perfect natural experiment. And everything that he said, I've finally found it now. The things that he said about the same laugh, the same mannerisms, and the twin method, these are words that Francis Galton used. The same man who was considered to be very sophisticated in his ideas, and it was used in apartheid South Africa. It was used in Rwanda. We've got a guy here who is saying the same things as someone who came up with that entire idea, almost word for word. He calls them the perfect research tool. And they call the non-identical twins the natural control group. They are considered an epidemiological tool. And Tim Spector said much the same thing when he said about they laugh the same. This is where Francis Galton said that there are twins of the same sex so alike in body and mind that not even their own mothers can distinguish them. Their features, voice, expressions are similar. They see things in the same light and their ideas follow the same laws of association. This close resemblance necessarily gives way under the gradually accumulated influences of difference of nurture, but it often lasts till manhood. Nature versus nurture. This is what the nuts and bolts of it is exactly the same. It's for the same reason and purpose. And who is going to be more vulnerable based on that? Who's going to be more vulnerable to participate? There is an organization called ICOMBO. There's actually an organization called the ISTS, which is the International Society for Twin Studies. And it is headed by actually a set of twins, the clinical lead at the Twins Trust Centre of Excellence. Has applied, she is at the top of RCOG. She is in charge of, which is the Royal College of Gynecologists and Obstetricians. She has put forward her CV to become a board member of the ISTS. So the person who is in charge of twin care in the UK is aligned with an organization that is for the purposes of twin studies. She's got a master's in epigenetics.
Yeah.
She works in twin clinics, caring for twin pregnancies, making decisions.
Sorry, yeah. What is it?
Yeah. I'm telling you a little bit of a story here, but how I really stumbled into how insidious it was that I was invited to these lectures that I would turn up to, and I didn't know what they were about. And when I found out what they were about, I was very angry, but it was very obvious to me what was going on. The ISTS had a conference and a group of parents, concerned parents, formed an organization called ICOMBO. And they are made up of mostly suburban Melbourne housewives. And they make decisions. They have created this club, an organization whereby every twin organization around the world is invited to join. And the ISTS has a central registry. So there's a register of twins. Every twin that's been born in this country since 2015 has been recorded. What's the difference between a conspiracy and the truth? 6 months, right? So these women are making decisions. And I went to one of their meetings, and they have people who have joined, who are participating in these meetings, who aren't as well resourced, aren't from countries that are as well resourced. And my concern is that the lure of this is not going to be people who have privilege. And is this documentary a bit of a sales pitch, maybe? What stood out for me was the way that they infantilized the twins. There was a comment made that once you're on the healthy diet and your sibling isn't, or when your diets change, if one of you falls off, are you going to then lose your mind and fall off as well? What about the dehumanizing aspect of it?
Sometimes we need to understand that everyone there's an agenda, and for us to make that agenda becomes reality, we have to mask it within the truth. I give it. It's like having an ISP where that someone will, because if we weren't like looking at this, I'm sure if we weren't looking at it from the point of being parent, we'll be like, okay, there's some truth there. Okay, there's some truth there. as I said to you, and there's a lot of, as I said, you made a statement about the difference between the truth and conspiracies in 6 months. And that's really profound. And because sometimes it can be presented in such a way that we tend to just gloss over it. Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. And then, but if we look back at the whole concept, because the fact that guy has been using twins as a now, to be honest, I need to go and have a better research to come to just to understand more what's going on behind the scene. Because all that what caught me more than everyone I watched it was like, oh, they're trying to live it. Okay. And after seeing the bigger picture, which is about twins. That would have caught me, as I say, I would have been pulled into that study because of the fact that I'm more interested in eating and living a certain way.
Yes, exactly. So if you're not going to be pulled in by the lure of the financial gains, you're going to be, you've got the promise of health.
Yes, and not realizing that there's a bigger thing afoot.
Yeah, absolutely.
What
did they say about? Do you remember what they said about how alike their genetics are? Don't I remember what he said about that.
They're exactly the same
in terms of everything, even the way, even their cognitive function. And I was like, there's no two people that have the same cognitive function.
No.
So that was quite interesting for them to say that. You know, when they even bring up a chart and said that.
Yeah. And
there is. They said there's. I've got some articles on that says that the DNA of monozygotic twins tend not to be 100% identical, and epigenetic and environmental differences further widen the gap between twin pairs. It is not nature or nurture. It's a complex interaction between our genes, our environment, and our epigenetic markers that shape who we are and what illnesses befall us.
Yeah, I think I was saying that it's a very soft introduction for the masses into epigenetics and eugenics. And for the little that they've said about it, forgetting the whole push for they're the same people, the little explanation of epigenetics that they did do, it's going to make everyone feel like, oh, there's nothing wrong with it. But I think us as twin parents will realize there's a lot of things wrong with this.
There's so much wrong with it. When they're talking about epigenetic, I'll just pull this quote quickly here. It says, in this way, epigenetics emerges as a reproductive science in which the uterine environment is figured as the key space, time of epigenetic becoming. We argue that in this focus on abnormality and improvement, epigenetics is tied to a eugenic logic, even as it rejects notions of genetic determination. So this is basically saying eugenics, epigenetics is eugenics from reproduction. And we have at the top a woman who is overseeing the care of twins in the UK. We've had an increase in stillbirths of 19% in twins since they did the Saving Babies bundle. The way that women are treated in pregnancy is just deplorable. We have the technology, we have the science to really care for these pregnancies, but it's not well understood or utilized. I'll often say that the reason that I do what I do is because of the twinless twins and the parents of the twinless twins, such as Alicia. So how does the fact that this is happening make you feel?
No, I know from the things that we've gone through with trying to find out what went wrong with Leighton. I say what went wrong, that's probably the wrong way to say it. But why did he pass away in utero? And the answers we get back of, we don't have a reason. You know what I mean? And the hiding of information, that's the other thing, is that it seems like they aren't invested in finding out the cause, because it's not going to really benefit now, because he's passed away, that you can't go back in time. However, what it can do is stop this happening to another family or another person, another twin. And I think that's where the real big issue is, that I had a call after 6 months from the bereavement midwife, because I've been trying to search for Leighton's full post-mortem results, and I've been going around coroner's offices and trying to get that information, and told, oh no, it wouldn't be with them because it's not a neonatal death. And I mean, it was that thing of, oh yeah, no, we're not waiting on any more genetic results, and it's just, there's just not this care, and it's this, they do these independent panel reviews and we've not received that information. Like, nothing is handed to you openly, it's all you have to ask for it, which just makes me question, like, why are we having to ask for it? Why isn't things being open? And yeah, I just think they just don't really care of why these things are happening. You know what I mean? And I think and they're very easy to part blame onto the parents, which another thing I think is incredibly wrong, when there is significant things that were missed and they're not identifying that they missed them. So yeah, and it's just, yeah, I just think it's one of these things that, like, at the end of the day, just start doing some more research into why, or if you're spotting things before that you're concerned about, is actually having those conversations with those parents. And it is about better pregnancy care. It does come back to that.
The NHS, if you read their blurb on postnatal depression and in twin pregnancy, it is really enraging. They haven't done any research into postnatal depression in twin mothers for about 15 years, I think. They're not putting in the work. They've got this massive bank of twins, and the Helsinki Act is a code of best practice, and it acknowledges that there are vulnerable groups. It just mentions vulnerable groups. So the group itself has to benefit from the study. That's what the Helsinki Act says. So is this in line with it? Why is this happening?
We're getting to the point where they've decided who's going to have the vegan diet, who's not. And typically they are all of a very similar weight, very similar. I'm talking like that there are pounds in between them. So I think one of the fitness ladies, or she's a part of it, but she's in it for the fitness side of things. She talks about the muscle mass and body fat and visceral fat. And she wants to know about the health benefits from it, basically, and if there are any. And
everybody that is on the board of iCombo that comes from all these different organizations, incidentally, have some involvement in research.
Yeah.
And one of them is in food science.
There you go. I think it's just using twins as a test group. Why not just anyone? Why not do this diet on any?
They've done it on everyone else that they haven't dated, then that's the next place.
They haven't been able to prove any.
No, because everybody, as I said earlier, your reaction to a vegan diet is something different from my reaction to a vegan diet. You understand? And we have to be very. That's the reason why I as I said earlier, I never say to someone, stop eating meat for that reason, because how your body react and my body react might be two different things. And that's the reason why. So they have, and I'm sure that when they do this, they've studied on individual, which they have done. Yes, and they come up inconclusive. I don't know if you remember a couple of years back when they were trying to have a conversation about parents who feed their children vegan against parents who doesn't. If you don't remember, and they weren't much difference. You remember? And then it becomes an issue. They did some studies, so they've been doing a lot of these studies, but so now they turn to the people who they don't understand, which is twins, which are twins.
And I think one of the professors or one of the researchers, he said that his subjects are always humans, always people.
Right.
He doesn't test on rats or anything like that. And he sleep patterns, exercise regimes, and all of those kind of things. And I think it's a bit seeded as to who they picked.
Yeah, but funny Sarah just mentioned something about a lady who scored for a PhD in food science. Then I'm looking back, I've picked something out of that. That's research, and one of the things is the promotion of soy. I'm even wondering if that's one of the reasons why they are trying to promote. So I'm just wondering, listening to that I picked that out of. I thought I was the one who realized that they have been feeding. So they're trying to
They feed the cows.
Yes. So I'm like, okay, so we're not satisfied with only promoting this product in whatever way we can. So when you mention the food science, I'm almost wondering if that's where this is coming from. Really quite expensive product.
And just to say,
really a lot of it.
There are a lot of Adventists who delve into food science.
Yeah. Oh yes.
Because of the Adventist message, health message.
Yeah, clean living, isn't it?
Yeah, as they want to promote it. A health message that says we should all eat a healthy diet. There's a lot of people that are involved in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
this is where I'm coming from.
So where does the documentary go towards the end? What's the cliffhanger it leaves us on?
Alicia.
Okay. Yeah, no, it left the hanging on who got what diet, didn't it? I believe.
Yeah.
Because I watched them back to back.
Yeah.
I might do a rewatch of episode 2 so that I know what's just in episode 2.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it leaves on which twin got what diet and why they wanted it. Most of the twins like, I want to stick to the omnivore diet. And then episode 2, doing a little, just a little sneak preview. It's all about fine dining.
Wow, I didn't expect that. I haven't even got through episode 1 yet because I'm like constantly like taking notes and debunking it and just being really angry at Tim Spector. I think that if we think of like how twins are depicted in society, the fascination side of it, the way that everybody is fascinated with your twins when you're pregnant and as they grow up. I sent you, didn't I, Shevone, a TV excerpt, a TV show where the judge, it's like a TV judge, loses her temper with a mother human trafficked her twins. And if you look at the definition of human trafficking, twin studies would fall under it. They are worth a lot of money in private adoption. I really do think that society places twins at risk. And when I say that, people think that I'm an absolute, they think that I like wear a tinfoil hat. And I don't, not every day anyway, but I'm very skeptical. And I feel like this documentary is playing into it. We're looking at these humans, these individuals as twins, and it is playing into everything. The cheese twins. Oh gosh, there's what the way that they spoke about being twins. My daughters were in the room, and they're identical. And they watched the first bit, and then they're like, don't want to watch this, because they got to the bit where Charlie's brother says, go for a walk, and I want to be on my own. I say, Charlie, come for a walk. And that was like, my girls sort of like looked at me, both of them, their heads spun like ours. What? Then he's not on his own. It's a bit kind of scripted reality, isn't it? It can't possibly be true, right?
Can't possibly be true, but it is. And yeah, that's all we've got time for, folks.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll be back tomorrow to talk about episode 2. I might have got to the end of episode 1 by then.
It's interesting because it's also opened up with a completely different side of studies that we will have.
Giving it a positive spin or
a completely different study, not just diet. No.
Another. Oh wow.
Sex side as well.
Yeah.
I'm just.
They all seem to lack confidence as individuals.
Yeah.
They really do. They seem to just be giddy with the idea that they've been selected, so to speak.
Thanks, guys. That's been really, I just really have enjoyed that.
Thank you. I've learned so much.
Oh my, thank you, Mark, with your knowledge about the part of America and the Seventh-day Adventist church and how that kind of ties in with it and stuff. It is really thought-provoking. And I think that it's just going to take us deeper into the rabbit hole.
So,
They don't mention them in the episode, in the future episode.
no, they
so
didn't.
we're all good.
I just said that's good. Because then it's a rabbit hole because they are the one who promote that diet as a part of a religious experience.
Yeah. Not going to talk anymore on that.
I have to say, I'm a working class snob, right? And the most snooty message I've ever sent anyone in my life is, Ian, make sure you get the Abel and Cole in the house so that
You can afford it. Oh,
veg box. Yeah. No, I can't afford it. But,
you
but it's a bit,
go to the bloody New Spitalfields market.
and then my kids, I bought them tracksuits, right? Proper Adidas tracksuits, and they look like right little Vickies. And I take a picture of them because I'm just like, I just can't believe I'm leaving that. I can't believe I'm leaving the house looking like this. And I made sure that I got the Abel and Cole box in the background.
I do have posh friends.
Posh friends. Mark, you only knew.
I'm very proud of them too. So anyway,
You say you've got posh friends. Because your parent governor. My gosh, that's like proper middle classage. That
when I was there, I was like, this broccoli is not nice.
And you drive a Chelsea tractor, don't you? Yeah, you see, look, see, Shevone. Yeah.
I'm a Londoner, all right? With 5 kids, I have to drive my Chelsea tractor.
All right, my darlings, thank you so much. I'm gonna stop recording and yeah, we'll say goodbye unless anyone's got anything to say. Last words. No. Okay.
Market in the morning, so off to bed.
Thanks, guys.
Yes, see you tomorrow.